Coming up on Let's Get to the Points.
Should we just kind of recap our trip after we split ways?
I'm curious to hear about all your flights.
I spent 40 hours in Japan. I went to Shinjuku. I even went to the Olympic Stadium. I think I definitely maximized my time.
I asked the flight attendant to help me with that seat, and you know what they told me? They said, "Sir, this is self-service." So back to the lounge. I spent the night in Frankfurt. I went to the Lufthansa first class terminal early enough because I wanted to spend as much time as I could down there.
I had ordered a special meal for my flight. And it's funny because they brought it to me and the guy goes, "Oh, this looks really dry."
And then, Nicole, get this. I spent 18 hours in the Oman Air Lounge. Now, it kind of felt like a hostel.
Wait,
So you don't...
Wait.
And now, let's get to the points. She loves traveling luxuriously for a fraction of the cost. It's Serena. He embraces every travel experience, and he proves adventure is found everywhere. It's Miguel. She teaches you and your family to travel on a budget while indulging in a little bit of occasional luxury. It's Nicole. And he loves using his points to fly some of the world's best airlines in first class. It's Mitch Shannon.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on Let's Get to the Points video and audio podcast, where we bring you the very best in tips and tricks in the world of miles, points, and travel. I'm Mitch Shannon, and I am joined by my co-hosts who love traveling the world with their families using their credit card points and miles. First up, she's back, and with a brand new Qatar Airways pillow, I might add. It's Serena.
Hi, everyone.
He's got another rubber ducky added to his collection. It's Miguel.
Yeah, what's up?
And now she can officially check the traveled to Japan box with a big check mark. It's Nicole.
Hi guys, how are you?
Please help us out. Click that subscribe button now to our YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple Podcast, wherever you watch or listen. Also, give us a like and leave us a comment below and tell us what you think about our show. Now, let's get to the points. Okay, guys, I've got some very, very bad news.
What?
The party, it's officially over. Our summer vacation road trip together, it came to an end.
Yeah, so sad.
And we're all back to our little Brady Bunch boxes here.
All good things come to an end.
That's right. So let me see if I can set the scene from our last show just for a minute here. So we had just spent the night in Doha. Then we separated. We went our own separate ways. We had some quick fun in Doha, including some extra special fun for Miguel getting the full-on ice cream show. I think the YouTube universe needs to see this video of you, Miguel, buying ice cream in Doha. This was just pure entertainment.
It was.
No, the best part is he was expecting a show and they were going to give it to him.
Really?
Remember?
The guy looked at him like, "Sir, really?"
You're a grown man.
Yeah, they just handed me the ice cream, and I was like, "No, like I don't want it that easy. Make me work for it."
The cost of that ice cream, we deserved a show.
Exactly. That's what you pay for.
$6. I know, right?
It was good though. It was good ice cream.
But here we are. We're back. Should we just kind of recap our trip after we split ways?
Absolutely. I'm curious to hear about all your flights.
And the challenges.
Yeah, well. Yeah, I kind of got a sneak peek of your guys' travels on the way home, and it had to do with some of the challenges too, right?
Oh my
Yeah,
God,
those
those
challenges.
I'm still working on my challenges.
I still have a couple pending.
Bonus points for anyone that completed all 3.
Did anybody complete all 3?
Not yet.
No, I have 1 left.
I still got one in my pending box. I gotta work on.
I'm not the only one.
Yeah, I got my challenges right here. So
If I'm grading everyone right now is at a D. We're not looking too good.
So we don't pass.
67%. According to Miami-Dade, that's passing. I don't know about California.
I think it's more like incomplete status, right?
You're right.
Yeah.
Although one of my challenges said while on the trip.
Sounds like an F. You just dropped down from a D to an F. But we were living in the moment, enjoying the trip. So I think we get a few extra points for that.
Absolutely. Great self-care, right, Nicole?
Oh my God. I am adding a solo trip at least once a year. Next year might have a more than one, but don't tell anyone.
You know, LGTTP trips, the 4 of us, I think that counts as a solo trip too.
Yeah. absolutely. See, because everyone knows what the assignment is. To make it to breakfast by a certain time, you need to get on the flight and enjoy certain things. When you're around like-minded people, you're not saying like, what time is breakfast? What time do you have to be there? What are we doing today? None of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's great traveling with you guys. I would definitely do it again. Are we all on the same page here?
Yeah, but maybe somewhere that has a better lounge.
Oh God, the lounge.
Maybe not Chicago.
Also somewhere where it's not 110 degrees.
Serena, you were melting.
I was. Oh my God, I was visibly melting. Yes.
Yeah, like the look on your face was like, please put her in the AC.
Get me out
ASAP.
of here. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can imagine what you are like in Singapore.
Yeah, melting where the sun don't shine.
Oh dear. TMI.
So there we are at the Park Hyatt Doha. We were all saying our goodbyes, kind of a sad, sweet moment. And then Nicole left like 5 hours later.
Just to be clear, we were not all staying at the Park Hyatt Doha. Just Mitch.
That's right.
Here for dinner.
Yeah, we stayed at the Hyatt Regency.
But I will say that if I were to go back, I think the Park Hyatt is a better location. That's a great location to be in. Would you agree, Mitch?
Yeah, great location. But what I would also say is a great rate too, because I got that for $140 a night. And there's some Hyatt places in the US I can't even get for $140 a
Yeah,
night.
that's true.
So I did pretty well, I think.
So as the chief savings officer, if I could get it for $149 a night, I would definitely do it.
Why you add $9 more? I got it for $140.
Oh, my bad. I'm so sorry. 140. Yes. That $9 can pay for the ice cream.
And the remaining three of us, we stayed at the Hyatt Regency Doha, which is near the airport. So I thought it was very convenient for early flights, but far away from all the attractions in Doha.
And the good thing, let's say you are not able to get the Park Hyatt for $140 a night. The Uber rides are pretty cheap in Doha. So if you are price conscious and you need to stay at the Hyatt Regency, it's a short Uber ride to the middle of town.
And perfect for you, Nicole, because you had a very early flight the next morning, right?
Yeah, we got back to the hotel, I want to say, was it 1 o'clock? Somewhere between 12 and 1. And I had to leave to get to the airport by 4:30. And I had to decide, am I going to stay up or am I going to go to sleep? I chose to stay up. And thank you, Miguel. Miguel's flight was an hour after mine, but he's like, I'll go to the airport with you. I was like, that is so gentlemanlike of you. Thank you so much.
I was just trying to save on the Uber ride.
I'm not mad at you for it. It makes total sense. What was surprising to me is when we left the hotel, it was 4:30. And the sun was already out. It looked like 8 a.m. in the US and it was already 90 degrees. The ride to the airport, I would say, how long was it, Miguel? Maybe 10 minutes?
About 10 minutes, yeah.
There wasn't any traffic on the road. And when we got to the airport, I had my boarding pass on my phone. I was like, I'm good. I'm just going to go to security. For whatever reason, I needed to get a paper boarding pass and then I was able to get through security. And then it was my favorite part. We got to go to the lounge. I mean, I'm thinking back last year this time, no Q suites. This year, Q suites twice. So we had breakfast at the Mourjan lounge and I was like, I've been here before. I know what I'm going to order. We had breakfast. It was good. We got to walk around the lounge. I think, Miguel, this was your first time in the garden lounge, correct?
Yeah, I hadn't been to the new one, this garden one. That was my first time there.
And did you like it better than the other one or was it about the same?
I think about the same. I think it's a little bit smaller, but what I liked that it was very close to where our gates were because you were flying out on Japan Airlines. I flew out on Finnair out of these gates that are like the last gates over here in this terminal. That's what I liked about that lounge, that I didn't have to go all the way from the regular lounge.
Okay, so you want to hear a funny story, Miguel? After we had established that this lounge was close to our gates, I got on the train in the wrong direction.
Nicole.
This was after you left, Miguel.
Yes. So I'm directionally challenged. And then I had to lug my overweight carry-on suitcase up the stairs. By the time I got to my gate, I was profusely sweating. And I missed a business class bus. I had to ride with the people in the back.
Oh, dear.
What a disaster. My gate was closer to the lounge, but when we got to the gate, it was one of those like to be bussed out to the airplane. And I was lugging my suitcase up the stairs. And this gentleman looked at me. He literally did this. Would you like me to help you? I was like, yes, please. Thank you so much. He was so nice. He helped me. The experience on this flight was 10 hours. So I flew Japan Airlines from Doha to Haneda and it was good. I had the opportunity to fly JAL. This was one of the 2 Japanese airlines that I was going to fly during this trip. The people in Japan are so Nice. So incredibly nice. It was shocking to me to see that every time you said thank you or they said thank you, they gave you a little bow. I was like, what is that? The food was good. The service was great.
My flight was only about an hour after your flight. So when we were getting bussed out to our plane, I think I caught a glimpse of your plane as it was taking off because I was trying to track it. And I saw a glimpse of it. I don't know if you saw me wave, but...
Of course I did.
I'm hoping you finally got some sleep on that plane because you stayed up all night the night before. I got a few hours of sleep, but I know you stayed up. So how was the sleep?
The sleep was good. When I first got in there, usually I'm trying to record and take footage just so that I can bring it for you guys. And at one point I was like, I can't record anymore. I have to go to sleep.
Yeah.
I think I got about 4 or 5 hours worth of sleep. It was really good. Before, you guys would always try to convince me that spend the money on a business class. Sleep is so important. I was like, whatever. I went to New Zealand, 13 hours in coach. I'm good to go. It's life-changing. Definitely life-changing.
Having a lie flat seat, right?
For that long. But I would say 7, 8 plus hours, it will make the difference. It just gets you up and running once you get off the plane rather than feeling super jet lagged and having to catch up on your sleep. So let's talk about the food on board on Japan Airlines. Mitch, I practiced my chopstick skills and they were not bad. I had rice with kung pao chicken. I did not go hungry and there was no rice left on the tray.
Good practice.
Really
So maybe I can give you some lessons. I chose the Western menu because I didn't feel like being adventurous. And I asked the flight attendant, I would like to choose the Western menu, but could I try some of the Japanese options? And she was happy to oblige. One of the major things on this flight, and I'm not sure if it's just because we were getting in super late, they gave us a voucher for 20,000 yen to take a taxi. And I remember when I was talking to Mitch about it, he's like, just stay at the airport since you're going to get in late. And when they gave me this voucher, I was like, this can totally cover the cost to get all the way into the city. Look out for that if you're flying on Japan Airlines. Again, I don't know if it's because we got in super late, but I've never seen anyone post or talk about these vouchers that they were giving.
That's pretty cool. I never got that.
I spent 40 hours in Japan and I think I made the most of my 40 hours. I got 2 runs in. One was 13 miles. I went to Team Labs. I found a Jamaican. I went to Shinjuku. I went to Shibuya Crossing, Imperial Palace. I even went to the Olympic Stadium. So I think I definitely maximized my time. Now that's one of the benefits of solo travel is that you get to do what you want to do when you want to do it. I think if I had my kids and family with me, I would not have been able to do all of that in that short amount of time. So my flight left later in the day on the last day, which was good because I got to squeeze in some things in the morning, and I left on ANA. So the night before, I called to check in and I called to select my seat. And the lady let me know, she goes, these are the window seats that are available. You'll be flying the room. And I was like, what? She's like, yes, this flight was everything. The seat was big. The food was better. The amount of movies I was able to watch on this flight compared to Japan Airlines was almost 10 times more. I guess it's easy to tell which flight was my favorite.
There must have been a lot of room.
A lot of room.
Good one, Mitch.
God.
So it sounds like in this case, an aircraft or equipment swap worked in your favor because we always hear about how equipment swaps downgrade you or to an inferior product maybe. But for you, it worked out in your favor where you weren't scheduled to fly in the room, but you ended up flying in the room.
I was so happy. I'm like, now I want equipment swap to a better one all the time. Serena, what do you think my favorite part of the room was?
The blanket. The pajamas. Wait, no pajamas.
The sweater.
Blanket.
The door.
Yeah.
The door.
Yes.
The door.
Wait, did you bring the door home?
No, I took another consolation prize, but I did not take the door home.
Can you explain if this door was better than the other doors you've had?
I like the Q Suite door better because it's one piece and it closes all the way. The ANA door is 2 pieces and there's this little gap. Like I'm pulling out straws here. It's not that big of a deal, but just because you're asking me to compare.
Does it seem like you're in a bathroom stall where there's just like a little crack where you can kind of peek
Exactly.
through?
That's exactly what it looks like. You can peep in and check on your neighbor. I had ramen on this flight. It was much better than the ramen on Japan Airlines. And they had this sake wine that was sweet. I must have had like 5 glasses. It was so good. This sake, I asked the flight attendant if I could take a picture of the bottle. She brought me the bottle, but it was all in Japanese characters. So what she did is like, I'm going to do you a favor. And she wrote it in English characters for me. She goes, this might make it easier for you to find when you get back to the States. The level of service is top notch. Qatar is good, but ANA and the Japanese carriers are definitely better. My journey took me literally around the world. I went from Miami to ORD, ORD to Haneda, Tokyo, and then I left from Narita back to ORD, and then from ORD back to Miami. To and from ORD and Miami, I used American Airlines. I booked them both through British Airways, and I used Avios to pay for them to get on the American Airlines flight.
That sounds really fun. I think it's just fun to say you went around the world literally. So it was mostly three flights where you did Chicago to Doha on Qatar, Doha to Tokyo on Japan Airlines, and then Tokyo back to Chicago around the other way on ANA. I think that's pretty cool.
It was an epic trip, and now I have to do it bigger and better next year. Correction, let me fix that. Miguel, you have to do it bigger and better next year.
So, Nicole, is it safe to say that ANA is your favorite business class flight so far?
Yes. If I'm getting the room, it absolutely is. It's like a smidge. You know, Q Suite has my heart because it was the first one, but this one is a level above that. So ANA has risen to the top.
And for all that, you spent under 150,000 points, right? Well, for those 3 business class flights.
Yes, let's do the quick math. So we have 70 plus, let's call it 38. So that's 108 plus 40. Yeah, 148,000 around the world. Senior VP of Award Space. Tell us about your way home from Doha.
Once you left me alone in the lounge, I had to start doing my challenges and go back around the lounge and take a lot of video for one of my challenges. And then walk over to my gate.
I know which one.
Me too.
So then I walked over to my gate, which was one of the last ones. And that's when I got on the bus because we had to be bussed over to the peninsula, and that's when I caught a glimpse of the Japan Airlines flight, which was your flight there. So I flew Finnair from Doha to Copenhagen, and that's about a 7-hour flight. I did this when there was still a glitch for this particular routing that was only about 20,000 points and about $84 or so. So this was a great deal, probably one of the best deals that I've had. I was excited about this because this was the newish Finnair business class seats that they released a few years ago, where the seats don't actually recline. So that's kind of like a big deal for people. So it still turns into a lie flat seat, but it doesn't recline. So you're either sitting or laying down. There's no in between. There's no zero gravity setting like there is on Starlux, but it was still pretty interesting. I would still fly it again, but probably not my top choice.
Can you talk about how that seat changes to a lie flat seat?
So under your feet, there's this little piece of the seat that just folds up and locks into place, which was, I mean, I'm going to skip ahead here, but part of the service. I asked the flight attendant to help me with that seat. And you know what they told me? They said, "Sir, this is self-service." I was, okay, sorry. I don't know how this works because there's no buttons. You know, it's a manual process. You said it's a self-serve. I was like, okay, it's okay.
Oh.
He still helped me with part of it, but not the full thing. So I was like, okay, you know.
So you're saying you lift a flap up and then you scoot your body down?
Yeah, because the back of the seat doesn't move at all. You lift up this flap from under your feet and lock it into place, and then just scoot down and lay flat.
Self-service and scoot down. Finnair.
Let's go back to boarding. They didn't serve alcohol as a pre-departure beverage. They gave me the option of a blueberry juice or water, I believe. And I went with the blueberry juice, and it was really good, actually. I really liked that blueberry juice. Because I had a nice breakfast with Nicole in the lounge, I decided to just kind of go for dessert, and I went with the pancakes. They looked really sloppy. They were like soggy. I just wanted pancakes. I didn't, I normally don't really add syrup, and they had all this stuff already on it. Like they tasted okay, but it didn't look appetizing.
You're not selling Finnair for me.
I know, right?
I'm not itching to book that.
So that was a Finnair. I did 7 hours to Copenhagen. I was at the airport for a couple hours. Then I took a Norwegian Air economy flight that I booked through the Capital One travel portal to get to Oslo, where I would spend the next 2 nights. I met up with a friend there who lives in London, and he went out there. That was his birthday weekend. So we went out and did Oslo things, jumped in the water. And then we did the sauna thing. That's, I guess, kind of the popular thing to do over there. Oslo was pretty nice. After a couple nights in Oslo, I took a Finnair flight, this time in economy, that I booked through Qatar Airways privilege program. I think it was about 6,500 points for that flight. And I went up to Helsinki, where I spent another 2 nights there. In Helsinki is where I had to decide whether I would keep my flight that I was booked on Air France going to Mexico City, or try to get Lufthansa first class, which I ended up getting. So a few days before my intended return back to Mexico City, I saw that Lufthansa first class flight open up. I canceled my Air France and I had to pay $70 to get a refund on my taxes and the 50,000 miles that I had paid for it. You would add that to the cost of what it cost me to book the Lufthansa first class flight. So from Helsinki, I took a flight on Lufthansa that I booked with, I think it was 6,000 or so United miles to Frankfurt. I spent the night in Frankfurt. Then the next morning, I flew out to Mexico City. On Lufthansa first class, I booked that with 96,000 life miles through Avianca and about $200, I believe.
So, Miguel, when you were looking for this Lufthansa first class availability, were you checking the Lufthansa first class finder on Seats.aero? Did you have an alert set, or how did you go about looking for that?
All of the above.
Is there a specific time of day where that gets released?
I think it varies, but I did have alerts set on Seats.aero. I would manually check the first class finder, and also had notifications set on for Seats.aero's Discord channel, because they have a channel in there that notifies you anytime an award seat opens up for Lufthansa first class, ANA first class, or a few other ones. So Seats.aero has a Discord community, and that's open to everybody. But if you have a pro subscription, there are some extra channels that are unlocked. In order to access those channels on the Seats.aero homepage, just go to Tools, Discord community, and if you're signed in with your pro account, that'll show you all of the channels that they have there as well.
Good to know. I think I'm heading there to find my next ANA flight.
So tell us about the duck. Which duck did you get? That's what I want to know.
So I actually was not lucky enough to get the current edition of the duck, which was the one they had for the Euros, the soccer football championship that's going on in Europe. And so they had a duck with soccer ball and stuff, but I asked for it and they said, no, we just ran out. So I got one that's like a pearl white color. But this was the first time that I actually used the duck for what it was originally meant for, to take a bath. Since I spent the night in the Frankfurt area, I went to the Lufthansa first class terminal early enough because I wanted to spend as much time as I could down there.
Miguel, where did you stay in Frankfurt?
So I actually stayed about 30 minutes away in a town called Mainz. And I went down there because there's a new hotel brand for Hyatt. I think it's called Me and All. And I wanted to check it out. Right now, it's currently under the JDV, but Hyatt just acquired this brand and they're going to turn it into its own brand that's going to probably count for the Hyatt Bingo or the Hyatt Explorer badge.
How was the hotel, Miguel? I have one of these booked for Berlin in September.
So the Me and All had kind of moxie vibes. It tries to be hip and trendy. They have a section downstairs in the lobby called Local Hero Shop, where they support local businesses, small businesses, by selling their products. So I thought that was pretty cool. I think they had bikes that you could probably borrow. They had a pretty nice gym, actually. The gym was really nice. They had a sauna and it was a nice hotel. I think it was maybe 8,000 points. I got upgraded to their, what they call a suite, but it was basically like a $400 per night room that I got for 8,000 points. I think it was a pretty good deal. And it was definitely worth going out of my way. I think it'll definitely be worth it once they switch to another brand that you can check off your Hyatt Bingo as well.
If they do switch, it'll be beneficial because I believe there's more JDV hotels than there are this brand.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's a win-win.
Back to the lounge. This was the first time that I actually used the bathtub to take a bath, which is what the duck was meant for, I guess. When people took baths, here's your little duck. It became a bigger thing where now people, I guess, collect these ducks. And so I have 4 ducks now.
Did you get to choose your duck?
No, usually they just have like a theme. So like I got one that's dressed as Santa because I went in December once. The other ones have just been random. I got one that's kind of has like Oktoberfest vibes when I went during Oktoberfest. Right now they're doing the Euros for soccer, for football. So you don't get to choose. Sometimes they might have 2 in stock and you might get to choose from those 2. But for the most part, they just kind of rotate. The one that I really want is a little duck that's riding a Porsche. Because of course, when your flight is about to board, they come and pick you up and either take you either in a Porsche, or if there's multiple passengers, they'll take you in a VW van. I've gotten the Porsche 2 out of 4 times.
Do you ride in the front seat or the back seat?
No, in the back seat. So this was the first time that I fly it solo. And I mean solo, like nobody from my friends or family. I actually had to go in a van with 3 other passengers. So it was a couple and another guy. So the 4 of us had to ride together. And one of the guys seemed to be disappointed. He was like, oh, no Porsche, huh?
Oh.
I was like, well, no Porsche for me either, buddy. Thanks a lot for going to Mexico City on the same day.
Yeah.
Right. Lufthansa First Class is a highly coveted product. I know you have 4 windows. The service is great, but how do you feel about no doors?
I don't need a door there. I'm good with it. I like it. It does does have a little privacy divider that comes up, and everybody just really minds their business. Nobody's walking past you anyways. So once I got to Mexico City, I stayed there 2 nights. I stayed at the St. Regis. Mitch, I think that's something that you might be interested in if we ever make it out to Mexico City.
That's on my short list.
I would stay there again. I actually have it booked myself, and I think I'm going to keep it because I did like the service there and the room that I got, the suite that I got at the St. Regis.
Yeah, you gave us kind of a sneak peek of a couple of pictures, and it looked really nice. So it's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, great location too. But unfortunately, my trip after flying Qatar Airways business class, Finnair business class, and Lufthansa first class, it did not end in such a high note. I ended up flying Volaris, which is a Mexican low-cost carrier from Mexico City to Juarez. So this was only my second, maybe my second time flying Volaris. And I thought I could do the Spirit and Frontier trick, which is you wait to check in to the last minute so you can get a better seat. Well, it did not work out that way, okay? If you're going to fly Volaris, check in as soon as possible because they oversold this flight. And because I had not checked in and selected a seat, I was number 8 on the standby list, which is crazy because I paid for this flight. And how am I standby? I was pretty upset. I was just trying to get back home. And they said, well, we can go tomorrow or you can fly out of a different airport that's 40 minutes away. I was like, what? Like, this is the flight I paid for. It was pretty ridiculous, but there was not a lot I could do because, this was a domestic Mexican flight. I was like, I can submit a complaint with DOT or I don't know what my rights are as a passenger in Mexico. I ended up accepting their offer to fly out of the different airport, but they gave me a voucher for the taxi. So they paid for my cab, which I think the cab cost them more than what I paid them for the flight. I think my flight was like $60. They paid for my taxi to get to the other airport, and they also gave me a meal voucher. But I didn't even use a meal voucher because there's 3 Centurion lounges there in Mexico City, which is pretty crazy because I don't think other airports have more than 1 Centurion lounge. And there's one that's pre-security, which I always thought was not useful because you want to go through security and then enjoy your time. But in this case, it worked in my favor because I couldn't get through security at the Mexico City airport because I was no longer flying out of that airport. So I went into the Centurion lounge and I said, hey, this was my original flight from this airport, but I just got rebooked from the other airport. Can I come in here for about an hour until I take a cab to the other airport? And they let me come in. They made an exception. They let me come in. I had a few drinks, breakfast there. I had some chilaquiles. So it worked out for me. I'm glad I got some free breakfast there. Now at the Centurion lounges in Mexico City, if you have the personal version of the platinum card, the food is not included. But if you have the business platinum card, then your meals are complimentary. So that's something weird with those rules there. And they also started a new rule similar to the US where you can no longer take free guests. I'm sure there's waivers if you spend a lot of money on your card, but now the guest fee is $70 US dollars to take a guest in Mexico City for the Centurion Lounge.
At $70 a guest, at that point, you're better off buying expensive airport food.
So I went to the other airport. I flew on Volaris and I ended up getting home, at least the day that I meant to get home. And that's how I finished my trip.
Miguel, can you show us what you got in Mexico City?
What are you talking about?
It's
nice.
I love the bright
Nice.
colors.
It's healing. But yeah, since I was going to be in Mexico City, originally it was just going to be an overnight layover and I was going to go home. But I said, you know what? Maybe I should get another tattoo because it's a lot cheaper here than back home. I went back to the same tattoo artist where I got my first tattoo about 2 years ago. And I scheduled a day to get another one. So I got my second tattoo in Mexico City.
That's the best souvenir. Better than a keychain.
Or a magnet?
We heard Miguel's version of Finnair, but I can't wait to get the nitty-gritty details from Mitch. Tell us about your self-service flight.
Let me back up real quick. So my husband, Porit, he met me over in Doha. So after our meetup in Chicago, he flew down because, Miguel, you found him some award space to go from Houston to Doha, and he got to fly the Q suites as well. So we kind of went, we're within just a couple of minutes of each other when we arrived in Doha, and we kind of all got to spend that night together in Doha, which was a lot of fun getting to spend some time with you guys going through Doha. And then we spent an extra day in Qatar at the Park Hyatt, which I would do this again. Probably not like the top favorite Park Hyatt, but for $140 a night, I would definitely go back and stay there again. So then, just like you, Miguel, we left, but a day later on Finnair from Doha, and we went up to Copenhagen. The jury's out for me on that seat. So it wasn't a self-service type of thing because I kind of figured out that seat real quick. quick because there's a little lever down there under that front part. The seat does not recline like you explained, but down in front, there's a little pad that comes up and you release the little lever and it pulls up and it locks into place. Then on your seat, there's a little thing that goes up, a little leg rest that comes up and makes it a full bed. Now, Polrit, he said he absolutely loved this. He thought the seat was cozy. He liked the fabric of the seat. I pushed back a little bit and I said, well, you can't recline, you know, you're kind of setting up a little bit. He loved it. For me, I will say it was roomy. I mean, if I'm going to compare it to the other European carriers like Swiss and Lufthansa Business and all of them, yeah, I think Finnair's better than them. But if you compare it to like all the international carriers, like the Asian carriers in them, I don't think so. But if I was going to Europe, yeah, I'd probably take Finnair over Lufthansa Business or Swiss or any of those. I will say, Miguel, the blueberry juice, probably one of my favorite things that they offered on board Finnair. It was actually really good because I was sitting there. She's like, would you like a blueberry juice? And I'm like, huh? I've never heard of blueberry juice before on a plane. And I'm like, yeah, I'll take a glass. Give me a glass. And then I go, can I get one more? And then I had it with my meal and it was really good. The catering out of Doha for our flight, I think I had the eggs and the hummus. Yeah, it was okay. It's breakfast on a plane. It wasn't that great. I felt like the meal was kind of limited because there wasn't that much. It was just like eggs and hummus, and that was pretty much it.
You know, they also serve that blueberry juice in economy. I flew Finnair economy from Oslo to Helsinki, and I had that blueberry juice as well. And it tasted just as good, even though it was a paper cup.
I love that blueberry juice. I've never had blueberry juice before on a plane, and we eventually ended up in Helsinki before we headed back to the States. And they had this blueberry vegan pie at the airport at this one restaurant, and it was really good. So that was something that I had that was really good. It must be the country of blueberries is all I can figure about.
It must be. I got to look this up because this is interesting.
Did Finnair have on-demand dining? Could you order items in between meals?
No. I think this was another self-service moment. They did their meal and that was pretty much it. They did an arrival snack, which I didn't really understand. I think it was hummus again. But for that long of a flight, I would have expected, you know, maybe something else for the second meal. But it was just like a hummus, a pita bread, and that was pretty much it for the second meal.
Do I dare say you were hungry?
That thought had crossed my mind when I was sitting there. And I'm like, you know, I think they need a little more food on this flight. That's all I'm going to say.
I think they try to set you up for you to not to ask for other stuff out of time, because on the screen, and even if the app, if you have the app for your flight, it says takeoff, lunch, sleep, you know, snack, land. Yeah. It shows you like a little moon. It says, you know, this is the time to sleep right now.
Yeah. It's full on timeline, very detailed timeline, you know?
I love that.
It's like a do not disturb. The flight attendants will not be available. Don't press the button. We're not coming. Self-service.
You know, speaking of that, I almost forgot, but I did press the call button and it must have been on for 3 minutes and they didn't come. I said, forget it. Like, I'm not waiting. I turned it off. I didn't time it. I didn't record it. And they didn't come in at least 3 minutes and I just gave up.
Not on the Japanese airline. Before I could press the button and hide the phone, the lady was there. I was like, oh, she was there.
Well, we didn't get to go to Japan, Nicole. We went through Europe. That's what we did.
Exactly.
Sorry, do better next time. Any glowing highlights about the flight?
That's pretty much it. I mean, we got out of Doha and we got to Copenhagen. So I guess that's, you know, half the battle right there. I mean, I will say it is probably a steal of a redemption, Miguel. How much did we pay for that? It was like 25,000 some points.
Yeah, and maybe 50 something dollars. I did the Avios booster for that. That's the video that I posted. And so my out-of-pocket cost was 5,000 points and $234. So I think it was great.
You guys mentioned that you bought it during a glitch. How much is it pricing out now?
50 to 55,000 points, and I think it's maybe like $50 in taxes. It's still a pretty good deal, I think, but I mean, I don't see myself flying from Doha to Europe. So this actually worked out because we already had our Q Suites flight to Doha, and I didn't really have a way out of there. So this worked out perfect for Mitch and I.
I don't know about you, Miguel, but that gate was a cluster in Doha. It was like gate 90 something, and you had to go down, and it was downstairs, and it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
The shuttle out.
At least you didn't sweat profusely.
So I was glad to get out of there. We arrived in Copenhagen. Okay, you want to talk about another dumpster fire? Waiting in customs took us an hour and a half to get into Copenhagen because there were only 3 people working the customs windows. And by the time we got through, it was, that was a hard wait for us to get through there. So we arrived in Copenhagen, and my Instagram friend, You Must Love Travel, we had talked about this before and I wasn't quite familiar with it, but they have what's called the Copenhagen City Card. And we got some really good value out of this. And it got us on the train and it took us directly to our hotel. I talked about this in the previous episode where I booked this Wyndham hotel. It's called the Comwell. Now it's kind of outside of Copenhagen City, but it was great because the train took us right there and it was literally like maybe 3-minute walk to get on this train. And I think you guys know this, but the train is perfect in Copenhagen because you don't even really need an Uber. All the stops it makes takes you directly where you want to go.
I love destinations that have efficient public transportation. It makes it so much easier.
Yeah, this was the best part of Copenhagen was using the city card and being able to use the train because I'd never been before. We did the boat tour around and we actually went under the canals and the bridges, and you literally are right under the bridge. You can reach up and touch it when you go underneath. The other thing that we did that we both thoroughly enjoyed is we went to Tivoli Gardens. It's probably one of the oldest amusement parks in the world. And they had this wooden roller coaster that's actually operated by these guys. And they kind of got this little handbrake. We did one round and they didn't lock our lap bar. We were riding this thing and we were scared we were going to fly out of that thing, but it was a lot of fun. It was a good day at this amusement park that was pretty old. And, it's kind of widely known that's identified with Copenhagen.
I believe that was the park that was the inspiration for Disneyland for Walt Disney.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right. I remember reading about that. Walt went there and that's kind of where he got his idea for Disneyland on how to do all these rides.
Oh, that's so interesting. Anyway, I saw your footage mention. I said to myself, I'm going to go there.
So you're on a roller coaster, no seat belts. I'm guessing you didn't check the ratings, but you made it home safely. How did you get home?
Well, I don't want to show this video, but I almost broke my neck in the fun house at Tivoli Gardens.
No, you got to show the video.
Oh, okay. I was trying to do a handstand in the little thing and I almost fell down and broke my neck, but
Oh my gosh, Mitch, be careful.
We're past handstand age. Okay.
Yeah. I thought I was trying
your
to be
insurance policy somewhere.
Anyway, we had a lot of fun. So how did we get home? The way that we went home, there was the award dump from Air France a couple of months ago. And I was originally going to go through Japan like Nicole, but I thought, you know what? Let's do this. We're already in Europe. Let's do this 50,000 point way home. So then we flew from Copenhagen to Helsinki to line up for our flight home on Air France. We booked that through British Airways. We found some award space. It was on their A321. It's that domestic European business class where it's basically economy with a middle seat blocked, and more blueberry juice. That was the highlight of that flight. And then we spent a day in Helsinki and it was kind of wet. It was kind of rainy, but stayed at the Hilton by the airport. And because I have those 2 Hilton credit cards from American Express, I was able to split my bill and pay for my room with both of those and get my 3rd quarter credit on my American Express Hilton cards reimbursed. So pretty much took care of the cost of that hotel. So then we went Helsinki to, very unpopular opinion, we went to Paris. I am not a fan of Paris. I just don't like that city.
It's not an unpopular opinion. There's like a whole Paris syndrome thingamabob.
So first off, we stayed at the Hyatt house next to the airport. Now, here's the thing. They offer a shuttle, but you got to pay €5 per person to take this shuttle from the airport to the hotel. And to get to the shuttle is like a 20-minute walk to the pickup location. Uber was €12. We're like, screw that. Uber picks us up curbside, got in the Uber, went over to the Hyatt house, spent the night at Hyatt House for probably 12 hours. And this was an award stay where we used one of our certificates for our stay. And because the rules, whatever they are, I don't think I've ever been charged taxes and fees on a Hyatt stay that has been an award stay before. They charged me the taxes and fees, and that just kind of burned me a little bit.
How much was that?
It's like €10.
Yeah, that happened to us in Rome, and they don't tell you about it before. So you're checking out, you had a good time, and they're like, your total is, and I'm like, for what? Breakfast was free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was a room tax, and I was like, oh, you just left a bad taste in my mouth. Is it all hotels in France that have this tax?
I don't know. Another unpopular opinion. I'm kind of a little over Europe right now, like the Parises and those locations, because it just seems like there's just so many tourists and it's just so heavily involved with so many people there.
You know, they're attacking tourists right now in Spain, in Barcelona, the locals.
Yeah.
They're spraying tourists with water guns while they're eating at restaurants.
I'll take it. It's probably hot anyways. It's okay.
At least
As long
it's
as I
water
don't get the
guns.
water in the hair, I'm okay.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So we spent the night at the Hyatt House. We got up the next morning to Charles de Gaulle, which is a dumpster fire of an airport, if I do say so myself. That security lane, they have those new security bag scanners that you go through. Just a complete waste of time. So we get through there, then we get to the lounge. The lounge actually was nice. I made the mistake. I can't do dairy really well, so they had these Madeleines, and I'm like, ooh, these look really good. Well, stupid me had one, and then
Oh, no.
then Pora goes, oh, you didn't see, they're all butter Madeleines. So I go back and I'm like, oh my God. It was good though. It was well worth it.
Wait, Mitch, I need you to back up. When you checked in, did you get an offer to upgrade to Air France first class La Premiere? And how much was it?
Actually, we checked in Helsinki, so there was no offer that we had gotten at the counter when we checked in. So I was kind of checking the app as we went through the rest of our trip, and we arrived at Charles de Gaulle that morning. I was checking the app, and they wanted $3,000 to upgrade from business to La Premiere and first. And yeah, there's no way I'm going to pay that for that flight.
I'm envisioning an upgrade when I leave from Charles de Gaulle, but the number I see in my head is 2 digits,
Yeah.
$82. Maybe that's a number for the lotto, but I don't know. I'll keep you posted, let you know.
So, Mitch, in the Air France lounge, did you get a clearance facial?
No, we didn't because we weren't in the lounge long enough. It opened at 7:40 and our flight left at 8:40. And it was funny because I was talking to one of the lounge gals and she was really nice. And she goes, you want to be first in line because these fill up really fast if you want to get an appointment. So they put a little sign over the machine and it says when they're going to open it. So you literally want to be there the second they take the sign off to get the appointment.
Adding that to the list.
So then it was time to go home. We boarded our flight from Charles de Gaulle to Los Angeles, and I just do not like Air France at all. The only thing I liked about this was that we paid 50,000 points one way to go home on this routing. The plane was just absolutely dirty. It was just disgusting. There was hair. There was just food all over the carpet. They had not cleaned this plane, and the service was pretty bad. It was just not good at all. It was rough coming home, but we survived.
Were you hungry coming home?
Here's the thing. There's a lot of dairy. I can't do dairy. So I had ordered a special meal for my flight. I ordered the low lactose meal. And it's funny because they brought it to me and the guy goes, oh, this looks really dry.
Damn.
And it was. I mean, I'm not judging them on how the meal was. It was just, I was kind of expecting that anyway. So
I mean, how bad is it that he hands you your food and was like, brother,
yeah, that's the way we came home. I don't know if I would do Air France again. Maybe if it was 50,000. It's kind of one of those things. Yeah, I kind of know what I'm getting at this point, but it wouldn't be my first choice for a European carrier anymore. That's for sure. Finnair would win over Air France for me.
Oh, wow.
Wow. That's so interesting to me. I really enjoyed my Air France flight last winter, but hearing about Finnair, I'm not sure I'd want to book them.
How did you get home, Serena? Because you went through Europe as well.
I did. Okay, so let's go back to Doha. Nicole left early in the morning. I didn't even see her, and her bed did not look slept in at all. So I'm glad you got some sleep on the plane, Nicole. So I left later that afternoon, and I flew Oman Air from Doha to Frankfurt. But let me talk about the lounges at the Doha airport. Back to when we arrived from our Q Suite flight, we walk into the arrivals lounge and we end up staying there, 2 arrivals lounges for about a few hours, right? We took showers.
I forgot about that.
We did. We hung out. We took showers. I took a long shower.
Serena was in the shower a long time.
We were worried, like legit worried.
Those showers are so nice. Those shower suites, they were so nice.
The seat in those shower lounge was better than this seat right here. And it was in the shower lounge.
We almost sent out search and rescue for Serena.
I think that's the best tip of this episode is the 2 arrival lounges that they had for Qatar and Doha.
Yeah.
Yes. And even if you don't have an onward flight, if your final destination is Doha, you have access to these lounges if you're flying on Qatar business class. Definitely take advantage of this. Don't get lost in the shower.
I was actually talking to Paul about these arrival lounges, how most people that travel, they do it because they need to travel. They need to get from point A to point B. Some of us travel because we want to travel. We love to travel. For the people that just travel because they have to, they probably want to get out of the airport as soon as they land. They get to the airport, go through customs, go to your hotel or wherever you're going. But for us at that arrivals lounge, was like, let's check this out. Let's take a shower. Let's have some dinner. Let's hang out and explore this airport and lounge. And that was something that I noticed on this trip. But yeah, back to your long shower, Serena.
And we were the only ones in the arrival lounge, if I'm not mistaken.
We were. It was completely empty. So I didn't feel bad about taking so long in the shower.
We were ready to send search and rescue out for you, Serena. You had been gone for so long.
I highly recommend the shower suites in the arrival lounge at Hamad International. We were there for so long in the lounges. We missed the club lounge hour at Hyatt Regency Doha, right?
We surely did. Yep.
But that's okay. We had a great time. And then we went out to dinner. So my flight was the next day. Okay, back to the lounges. And I mentioned this because this is important. Going forward, if I'm going to fly out of Doha, I'm going to make sure it's on a one world carrier. I flew Oman Air. Oman.
Oh, man. Oh, man. That's
it was good. Oh, man.
Oman will be joining One World maybe in a few months. But at the time that I flew, they were not part of One World yet. So I had to go to the Oryx lounge. If you remember the food, do you guys remember the food from the arrivals lounge where it was packaged in plastic?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was the same food at the Oryx lounge. I was expecting something like Mourjan, something nice. It wasn't like that at all. It was the same food packaged in plastic. And then I said, okay, forget this. Let's try the Priority Pass lounge. And the Priority Pass lounge was the Al Mahal lounge. So I go in there, same food wrapped in plastic. So I was disappointed with the non-One World lounge options at Hamad. So note to self, always book One World through Hamad.
So you're telling me you would fly American Airlines out of Doha to, what did they fly? I think they fly to Philadelphia. You would fly that?
You just have to stock up on food before you go.
Yeah.
Like, have a to-go bag.
Tupperware.
Or your Ziploc.
I guess if you fly American Airlines out of Doha, get your food in the lounge, and then because the plane food's not going to be any better.
Well, you guys are very lucky because you were all on One World carriers, so you didn't have to worry about the lounge food at all.
So this is something I found out just preparing for this trip. It's not just Qatar Airways business class and first class passengers that have access to these lounges. If you're flying a One World carrier out of Doha, you have access to the Mourjan lounge. Very important.
Which is far and away superior than the other options. Then I flew Oman Air from Doha to Muscat, which was uneventful. It was a very short 1-hour flight. And while on board, I completed one of my challenges. And then, Nicole, get this. I spent 18 hours in the Oman Air Lounge.
Wow.
18 hours.
18 hours.
Okay, I want to hear about this.
Okay, so normally when you have a layover that's that long, usually you'd leave the airport, go out in the town, get a hotel room, right? And I was originally intending to do that, but I wasn't feeling well on this trip, as you guys know. Also, my husband and I, we are going back to Oman later this year. So I knew I was going to have another opportunity to see Oman. I wanted to use these 18 hours just to relax and recoup and provide more self-care to myself. So I hung out in the lounge, and it was a great lounge to hang out for the whole 18 hours. So I ate dinner. I did a little bit of computer work. And then I asked for one of those sleeping rooms. The Oman Air Lounge, the business class lounge, has 8 rooms. Only 4 of these rooms are traditional sleeping rooms with a bed that you can lie down on. The other 4 have more like a sofa and an ottoman, which I don't think is comfortable enough for me to sleep in. So I wanted one of those sleeping rooms. I talked to one of the staff members and I said, I don't want to use it yet. I'd like to use it a little bit later, but I'm afraid it's going to get booked up. Can you keep me in mind for a room later? She says, oh yeah, no problem. And her name was Grace. She was so nice. Later on, on, she found me and she said, so more people are coming into the lounge and I want to make sure that you have a room. So I blocked off the sleeping room for you. So that was really nice of her. I will say that at this lounge, there was way more staff than there were passengers. And so I always had someone on me asking me if I needed something, asking me if I had a question about something, asking me if I wanted help. The service is great. And I was very happy to get my own sleeping room. Now, it kind of felt like a hostel because this is not Al Safwa.
Wait,
So you
wait,
don't-
wait. You can't go from sleeping room, attentive. This was great. It felt like a hostel.
So the part that felt like a hostel is you had to exit your room and go down the hall to use the bathroom. So this is not like Al Safwa where you get your own private room with a bathroom. I had to go to a separate bathroom and the bathroom's really nice and the showers are really nice. But I had to leave my personal room to go use the bathroom. So that's the hostel part of it. Everything else was great. They had the wonderful Oman Air blankets in the rooms. They had a pillow for me. I got to lay down and sleep. In this sleeping room is the only place where you'll actually find a real desk and a chair with outlets that you could work at. Outside in the lounge, they have these high top tables that are a little uncomfortable for me because you sit up top and my knees felt a little weird. So I thought that the desks that they had inside the sleeping rooms were really nice because you can actually sit more traditionally and work if you needed to.
Yeah, I don't remember at the Mourjan lounge that there were desks or chairs to work at either. They were more like lounging chairs, but I don't remember like a workstation. Did you guys see one there?
Stay tuned for my special edition.
Okay, will do.
I think there's a business center in there where they have probably.
I think they have like cubicles.
Yeah.
Yeah, like desks, like not comfortable, but
So these sleeping rooms, you're only able to access these rooms if you have a layover for over a certain number of hours. And you only can have these rooms for a maximum of 5 hours, but they let me have it for 12 hours. So I got this room. Normally you only get for 5 hours. I got it for an entire 12 hours. So I was very appreciative for that. And I actually filled out a feedback form for Grace because she did a great job ensuring that I had a relaxing stay there.
How was the food in the lounge? Was it wrapped in plastic?
No, it was not wrapped in plastic. I will say that I enjoyed breakfast better than dinner. Well, first I woke up, I went to the bar. They couldn't make me an espresso martini, and I was a little sad about that. But I did get a mimosa, and then I went to go have breakfast. And you know what was a relief for me at breakfast? I did not see bacon or eggs or pancakes or waffles. And to me, I love that. Like, I'm sick and tired of seeing bacon, eggs, pancakes, waffles. It was warm, hot food that I really enjoyed eating. Rice and meats and vegetables. So I had a really good breakfast in the lounge.
And lunch and dinner because you were there for 18 hours.
There is an Oman Air first class lounge, and I did not have access to that lounge, but first class passengers, they also get a complimentary spa service in their spa. And you also get a la carte dining in their dining room if you are flying first class only.
You spent 18 hours in this lounge. You had breakfast, you had lunch, dinner, a whole hostel situation. How did you get home?
I flew Oman Air in business class from Muscat to Frankfurt. That was my next flight. And I will say this was a really good flight. I really loved my business class seat. I had about 3.5 windows. Not quite 4 windows, Miguel, but I had 3.5. So it was a lot of legroom, a lot of space. What I would have liked more of is counter space. So there wasn't a lot of counter space, but my favorite parts of this flight were the wonderful blankets. The color is a beautiful turquoise with stitching. And then on the other side, there's fleece. So it was very comfy. And then my other favorite thing was this red velvet cheesecake for dessert. This cheesecake, I'm sorry, Mitch, you're not going to be able to eat this.
Yeah.
But this cheesecake was the best dessert I have ever had on a plane. It was the best. I took one bite and I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I told my flight attendant, I said, this dessert is really good. And you know what she said next?
I'll bring you another.
Would you like another one?
Oh.
And this is my new gauge for favorite premium cabin flights for me. If you express how much you like something and they offer to bring you another one, that is service that I like. And I've mentioned before that service is very important to me. I highly value service. I encountered that on Singapore as well. They offered to bring me another dessert. And Oman Air, they offered to bring me another dessert. So
Wait. Hold on. I'm sensing a pattern here. Is it the service that's key or offering you an extra dessert? Or are the two synonymous?
it's the service. So my flight attendant was wonderful. She handed me all these goodies like the amenity kit, another box. And then the purser, he was also super nice, handed me another amenity kit. So I came home with 2 of those things, which is nice. I'm saving it for a giveaway at a future event that we have.
2 questions. Well, one's a statement, one's a question. I understand the importance of the counter space. And that was one of the downsides of ANA. So you have this massive room, and unless I didn't know where to look for it, but there was only one area to store stuff and it was very small. So it was funny that they had this big space, but not much storage, unless you're going to put stuff in the footwell.
And like we've said before, Nicole, you know who probably designed these seats? A man.
All he has is his wallet.
Right.
Not enough counter space.
That's right. I appreciate my counter space.
My question is, you were talking about this blanket. Which one is better, the Qatar blanket or the Oman Air blanket?
Why don't you show us what they look like?
Yeah.
And it's funny, I can't show you both. But my daughter stole one, so I will say that the Qatar Airways blanket was better because it is thicker. It doesn't have the fleece on it, but it feels more substantial and I feel like it could keep you more warm.
It does keep you super warm.
So one last thing I want to mention about Oman Air is it is one of the few business class products in the world that actually gives you pajamas in business class. So I got to bring home another pair of pajamas. I didn't like the color too much. It was great. It had pockets and a drawstring and it was comfortable.
How long was that flight?
It was 7 hours.
That's pretty good for a 7-hour flight.
Yeah.
Because I think United, it has to be like 14 hours and you have to ask for it. You have to know that you got to ask for it. Like otherwise you don't get anything.
I will say that on Oman Air, I did ask for it. It wasn't on the seat. So I do think you need to know to ask for it. So there's a hot tip right there.
So just always ask for pajamas.
Always ask.
So now you're in Frankfurt. And then how do you get to San Francisco from Frankfurt?
Mitch, your comment about going through customs in Copenhagen, I faced the exact same thing going through customs in Frankfurt. I had to wait an hour and a half in this line because only 2 people were working. I thought they were efficient in Germany. Yeah. What is going on? I would have expected way more efficiency. It's a good thing I didn't have to go to the bathroom. It was a long wait.
I don't know what it is about Europe. Is like everyone on strike or something, because it's just like there was no one there in the customs hall. And I can only imagine how it was there, because if you didn't get off that plane quick enough, those people that were sitting in economy, I felt bad for them because the line was like double the length than what it was for us.
I would have expected that since I was in business class, I would have been one of the first few people in a line, but I wasn't. Somehow a bunch of economy passengers also got into line ahead of me. I don't know how that happened.
Could it have been people from a previous flight?
There was some of that too. Okay, so I finally exited Frankfurt and then I stayed one night at the Hyatt Place Frankfurt Airport Hotel. Like you, Mitch, I didn't want to take the train. I was sweaty with my overstuffed bag, so I just called an Uber.
Nice.
Sometimes it makes sense to splurge a little bit.
Sure does.
So this Hyatt Place was nice because they offered me a welcome drink. So I had some wine as a welcome amenity. Arriving at a Hyatt Place, I have never had that before. So that was super nice. Okay, and then the next morning, I went back to the airport. This time I took the train because I had time and I wasn't sweating. And again, I waited in this long line to get into the terminal of where my flight was. I have this goal now in the future. I'm going to try to avoid transiting through Frankfurt unless I'm in first class.
You just jinxed yourself. Okay,
I said unless I'm in first class.
Because if I recall, in some prior episode, you said Doha was a one and done. There we were. So I don't know, maybe Frankfurt's our next group trip. Who knows?
Okay, so my next flight home, it was on Condor from Frankfurt straight back to San Francisco. And I was really excited about this because I didn't have to position back to San Francisco as a direct nonstop flight home. This was a fun flight because I've never flown Condor before. What was most memorable for me was everything had the name Condor on it. The pillow, the blanket, the glasses, the napkin cover. These cute salt and pepper shakers that I couldn't take home because of a stupid challenge.
Oh, no.
I bet when they were cleaning my seat, they were wondering why I didn't take it. They were probably sitting there wondering why. This is so cute. Anyway, I'll show some footage here. It's adorable. It's got these propellers. You can take it apart. Salt on one side, pepper on the other. I really loved it. So I think it was a great flight home. The only problem I have with this seat was that weird thing that sticks out on the side of your head. So I felt myself bumping into it a lot when I was looking out the window, especially with headphones on. That's my only complaint. And they didn't pick up my garbage, but that's okay.
Airlines, if you're listening, Serena wants extra dessert and for you to pick up her garbage really quickly.
Yes, please.
So Serena, would you say this is a good use of Alaska miles to fly Condor if you wanted to go to Europe?
Absolutely, yes. So I used 55,000 Alaska miles. This was pre-devaluation. Now, between the West Coast and Frankfurt, it will cost 70,000 miles. And I still think that's a great way to get to Europe nonstop. And I actually see 4 seats on Condor next summer for a date that I need to fly to Europe if I wanted to. I think it's a great way for anyone on the West Coast who wants to go to Europe.
I think it's also a pretty good deal from the East Coast then, because depending on the distance, it could be maybe like 55,000 miles from the East Coast, which is, I guess, what they used to charge for the entire US before. But I think it's still a pretty good deal.
And how was the lounge in Frankfurt, Serena?
Oh, don't even bother. So another disappointing experience. The great thing about that lounge is they have jars of candy. So I knew I wasn't able to bring anything home from the plane for my kids. But I had Ziploc baggies and I stocked up on some candy for my kids from the lounge. That was the best part of the lounge. When I was filming footage in that lounge, the lady told me to stop doing that.
Wow.
And that was the first time anyone has ever told me to stop doing it in a lounge.
Serena, which lounge did you have access to with the Condor, flying Condor out of Frankfurt?
This was the Lufthansa business class lounge.
Yeah, they're not that great.
Yeah. Nothing spectacular.
That is so disappointing. Like, I feel like that's a part of the whole experience, and not having a good lounge experience is just like, brother, ugh.
So I'm glad we all made it home safe and sound. And that was a great time, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one.
Exactly. How are we going to top that? Just stay tuned.
It sounds like everyone had a great time, an epic trip coming home with different routings. Before we go, let's recap how many points each of us spent on this trip. And I want you to let us know in the comments who had the best routing home, whose trip was most epic, most adventurous. Leave us what you think in the comments below. You guys better vote for my trip because it definitely was the best. My first flight from Miami to Chicago was about $200. I paid cash for that flight. From ORD to Doha was 70,000 British Airways Avios. From Doha to Haneda, I used 40,000 American Airlines miles. And to get from Narita to ORD, I used about 38,000 Virgin Atlantic miles with the transfer bonus. Now, once I got to ORD, back to Miami, I used 12,000 points on Qatar Avios to book that flight. So that's about 160,000 points and $200. What about you, Miguel? What were your totals looking like?
Well, I don't know if I should double count my El Paso to Chicago because I was double booked with all those delays. So, but I ended up spending over $200 to get to Chicago on United Economy cash price. It was the same 70,000 British Airways Avios to get from Chicago to Doha on Qatar Airways. And then from there, I think this was probably the best redemption. Just this little segment was the 5,000 points and $234 to do Finnair, Doha to Copenhagen. And then all you have to know is that I did Frankfurt to Mexico City in Lufthansa first class. That was 96,000 points and $198. Plus, I'd have to add the $70 that I paid to cancel my Air France flight. So to say, to call it 270. And I'm the winner. So everybody else is, you guys don't have to go. I won. What was your total, Mitch?
I feel like everyone had a better trip than me, but I think I got a pretty good redemption rates out of this. So I think it's kind of a fair trade-off. So let's see. So from LA to Chicago, I kind of treated myself. I did the United Travel Bank. That was about $500. Then from Chicago to Doha, it was $70,000 with the BA boost. I paid a little bit of cash from that. Doha to Copenhagen, that was the same flight you took, Miguel. It was great. I only did about 20,000 points for that. To get from Copenhagen to Helsinki, that was only 8,000 points with British Airways. So that was pretty cheap. I think I did pretty well there. But Helsinki, Charles de Gaulle, LAX, 50,000 points and $300 in taxes and fees. So my overall points I spent was ballpark about 150,000 round trip to go from LA to take that wild, crazy trip with you guys. So I think that's a pretty good redemption points wise for a round trip. But I think everyone had a better trip in routing and pairings and flights than me, especially you, Serena, with that Oman Air flight. So how did you end up doing?
I was very happy with my bookings. From Chicago to Doha, it was 70,000 American airline miles. From Doha to Muscat to Frankfurt, it was 45,000 Air Canada Aeroplan miles. And from Frankfurt to San Francisco, it was 55,000 Alaska miles. And I think you should vote for me because I couldn't take home these cute, adorable Condor salt and pepper shakers.
Yeah, I think you should vote for everyone but me because everyone else had a great flights and had a great time too. Yeah, especially Nicole on those Japan Airlines and ANA. Great trip. I had a great time with you guys. Let's do it again, okay?
Absolutely. This was such a fun time.
Yeah.
Where are we going, Miguel? What are you going to book for us?
Stay tuned.
All right, that's it for now. Make sure you leave us a comment and let us know who had the best redemption or the best trip. We'd love to hear from you. I want to thank all of our hosts. It's Serena.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Miguel.
Later.
And we'll see you next week, Nicole.
See you guys next week.
And I'm Mitch Shannon. Make sure to join our email newsletter for the latest in everything going on in the points and miles world. And we'll see you all here next Friday. Thanks for watching and listening.
Let's get to the points.com.